Days are getting longer, so it's actually light outside for us to start, which is exciting. And since we did forming, storming, and norming for last week, we're getting to the fun part before you guys lead your group in a month, working and closing. So there's a few good PowerPoints on this. And before I did that, I wanted to get into the first video. It's not showing up. So forming and norming video, basically to review last week. So you'll all be leading your group soon, and here is the forming, storming, and norming video that was helpful to us.
All right, listen up. I'm Coach Boone. I'm going to tell you all about how much fun you're going to have this season. We leave for camp, Gettysburg College, August 15th, 7:29 a.m. If you report at 7:30, you will not be playing football this season. You will be watching. You will wear a jacket, shirt, and tie. If you don't have one, buy one. Can't afford one, then borrow one from your old man. If you don't have an old man, then find a drunk, trade him for his. I can guarantee you, there's a bum on the street that looks as raggedy and ridiculous as what I'm looking at right now. This is no democracy. It is a dictatorship. I am the law. If you survive camp, you will be on the team. If you survive.
So that's forming. It's a group of a football team, if you've seen this movie before.
Shots, and none of us can see nothing but the bench this year. You ain't calling the shots, you'll play.
And hopefully it'll show, just because copyright. This is fair use for educational purposes.
All right, listen up. I want everybody off the bus. Let's go. Follow me, everybody. Let's go right now. All right. Everybody off the bus. Listen up. I don't care if you're black, green, blue, white, or orange. I want all of my defensive players on this side, all players going out for offense over here, right now. Let's move. Let's move. Let's move. Let's move. You and you.
Remember the Titans is the movie.
You and you.
So if you wanted to watch the whole thing, it's actually pretty good.
Because the person that I have to sit next to is the same one that you'll be rooming with for the duration of this camp.
So that was storming after forming.
All right, listen. I'm Gary. You're Julius. Let's get some particulars and just get this over with, all right?
Particulars.
Yeah.
No matter what I tell you, you ain't gonna never know nothing about
Hey,
me.
listen. I ain't running any more of these 3-a-days, okay?
So what I got to say, you really don't want to hear, because honesty ain't too high up on your people priority list, right?
Honesty? You want honesty? All right, honestly, I think you're nothing. Nothing but a pure waste of God-given talent. You don't listen to nobody, man. Not even Doc or Boone. Sugar push on the line every time, man. You blow right past them. Push them, pull them, do something. You can't run over everybody in this league. And every time you do, you leave one of your teammates hanging out to dry. Me in particular.
Why should I give a hoot about you? Huh? Or anybody else out there? You want to talk about the ways you the captain, right?
Right,
Captain's supposed to be the leader, right?
right.
You got a job?
I have a
You
job.
been doing your job?
I've been doing my job.
Then why don't you tell your white buddies to block for Red better? Because they have not blocked him or for Plug Nickel, and you know it.
So that was the end of storming. This is norming now.
All right?
We'll be out here all night till we get this thing right. Let's go. On the ball, Rev. What was that, Ray? Whatever it is, it ain't blocking.
Give me a break.
You know what I'm talking about? Give you a break. Me and Julius.
Wait a minute. What you said? Let him
Hit
handle
the
this.
red once, just one time. I swear to God, I'm gonna hit you so hard by the time you come to, ooh, boy, you're gonna need a new haircut. You understand me? Let's play, fellas. On the ball, let's run it again.
All right, big Petey. All right. You really stuck him, Campbell. Yeah, I love me a little contact, Petey. This is left side. Wrong side. Left side. Left side. Left side. Left side.
Now this is performing.
Red, I swear to God, I audible.
I didn't hear it.
I was coming through.
Swear to God.
Just take a look at that son. They broke the board and the rest. They're going to be throwing it away this season. You got 1 minute. Take care of the town now, coach.
Coach, there's no making it. Not a quarterback. You make that pitch come. Yes, you can. When I was 15 years old, I lost my mother and my father in the same month. Same month. 12 brothers and sisters. I was the youngest one, but they were all looking up to me. I wasn't ready yet either, but they needed me. Your team needs you tonight. You're the colonel. You're going to command your troops tonight. You understand? Twins right, 48-0 lead. Let's go.
What's the matter? I'm sure seeing football in here before you beast. Let's go. Show some work in those legs. I got it. It's going to be all right. Let's see what he's this time. Do it. Let him through, all right?
What?
Just let him through. Trust me.
Your quarterback. That's a bad one.
You make sure. Forever. The night that played the Titans.
Fake 23 blast with a backside George reverse. You got that? Fake 23 blast with a backside George reverse like you like it. Let's go.
Guess not. Why are they bringing a QB?
That's it. Good season.
So if you want to watch it, remember the Titans. That's a
Gary
journey.
is gone, but his spirit lives on. People say that it can't work, black and white. Well, here we make it work every day. We have our disagreements, of course. But before we reach for hate, always, always, we remember the Titans.
Hey, 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 goodbye.
So instead of what we had last week, I thought that was a good depiction of the forming, storming, and norming. Just to get an idea of the different stages of group development as you guys are about to lead your own group. Right here, after forming, storming, and norming, you've got some of the group stages of working and closing. That is sometimes when it gets a little bit harder. This week covering distinguish the characteristics of a working group from a non-working group, differentiate the interventions that occur in the working stage, from those that occur in other group stages, and then identify and describe the important factors in the process of terminating group. So proper termination is a little bit harder. Sometimes folks have a challenge with doing that. So here is the voiceover from this week we made in grad school.
As we look at the objectives for the week, I want to remind you to review the chapters for the week prior to viewing the lecture, as it is intended to supplement your reading. By the end of the week, you should be able to distinguish the characteristics of a working group from a non-working group, differentiate interventions that occur in the working stage from those that occur in other stages, and identify and describe the important factors in the process of terminating a group. The working stage is only possible once a group has successfully progressed through the forming, storming, and norming stages. And the working stage focuses on the achievement of individual and group goals and the movement of the group into a more unified and productive system. During this stage, members and leaders feel more freedom to try out new behaviors and strategies because the group has worked through the issues of power and control enough for the members to trust each other. In this working stage, peer relationships are characterized by a deep personal level of concern, and self-disclosure can occur more often and at a deeper level than before. The Johari window, which is illustrated below and can be found on page 126 of your text, can be used to discuss how self-disclosure may operate in the working stage. As members begin to use self-disclosure, they experience the risk that comes with others finding out more about them, but also the comfort that comes with sharing information in a safe environment. This makes members more likely to self-disclose, which ultimately makes that lower left-hand quadrant smaller, as there are fewer hidden aspects about the member. The blind quadrant represents information that is unknown to the member, but is known to the other members in the group. This may be unconscious or nonverbal behaviors that group members observe and then share, or impressions that group members have which allow them to provide some kind of feedback in that group. Again, in a working group, this quadrant will get smaller as group members are able to provide feedback to each other. The bottom right quadrant describes the unknown, which contains material that is hidden from the self and also from others because of a lack of opportunity to explore it. A working group helps shrink this quadrant as well as individuals begin to search for new aspects of themselves and feel safe to uncover and explore new behaviors and a new way of relating to others. Overall, members in a working group become more aware of themselves and grow through these discoveries and insights. Group leaders can facilitate this growth through strategies like rounds, where each member gets an opportunity to provide some prompts or address the group in some way. Through role play, where members assume an identity that is quite different from their own reality and allows them to address patterns of behavior or consequences of those patterns in a new, different light. Or through homework assignments, where members work outside the group to try out new skills in real-life situations and then report back to the group on the experience. Incorporation is a term that describes the process of developing an awareness and appreciation for the accomplishments of individual group members and the group as a whole, and helps members see the value of their experience.
So as you can see, self-disclosure is an important piece that goes on. If you give group folks homework, that's okay. A lot of times in the addictions group, their homework would be to find a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, an open meeting like you guys observed for your first major assignment. I'm actually going to open that back up because I feel like there is one or two that mentioned they had done it but just didn't turn in the writing. So remember to do your write-up for that. That's in preparation for your second major assignment here in a month when you lead the group. And so here is the next video I had for you guys, if it will work for me today. The stages of group development.
Groups are a common arrangement in today's business environments. Any manager who works with or supervises groups should be familiar with how they develop over time. Perhaps the best known scheme for group development was advanced by Bruce Tuckman in 1965. Initially, Tuckman identified 4 stages of group development, which included the stages of forming, storming, norming, and performing. A 5th stage was later added by Tuckman about 10 years later, which is called adjourning. It is believed that these stages are universal to all teams, despite the group members, purpose, goal, culture, location, demographics, and so on. The first stage of group development is known as the forming stage. The forming stage represents a time where the group is just starting to come together and is characterized with anxiety and uncertainty. Members are cautious with their behavior, which is driven by the desire to be accepted by all members of the group. Conflict, controversy, and personal opinions are avoided, even though members are beginning to form impressions of each other and gain an understanding of what the group will do together. Some believe this cautious behavior prevents the group from getting any real work done. However, the focus for group members during the forming stage is to become familiar with each other and their purpose, not on work. Typical outcomes of the forming stage include things like gaining an understanding of the group's purpose, determining how the team will be organized and who will be responsible for what, discussion of major milestones or phases of the group's goal, including a rough project schedule, outlining general group rules, including when they will meet, and discovery of what resources will be available for the group to use. The second stage of group development is known as the storming stage. The storming stage is where conflict and competition are at its greatest. This is because
I love that she has a little baseball bat in here. It's kind of a good joke.
now that group members have an understanding of the task and general feel for who they are as a group and who group members are, they feel confident and begin to address some of the more important issues surrounding the group. Such issues can relate to things like the group's tasks, individual roles and responsibilities, or even the group members themselves. The storming stage is where the more dominant group.
So just finishing up that review that we have of storming, forming, norming, and if you click on that link, it is in your Schoology. It has more stuff on groupthink and then leadership and leader roles and different things, to get your definitions and examples for
Have you ever been
the LSW test. And then the final one I had was stuff about the COVID more recently, things that are going on. And getting back to our teamwork piece. So learning how to get the group to work together and do your teamwork. That's where when you guys lead your group in a month, hopefully you'll keep in mind all of these phases. When you lead a group, it could be the middle. If you're leading Girl Circle in the middle, you might actually be in the middle part of working groups. If you're doing the introductory one, you still do some of that forming and getting to know you and things of that nature. So keep that in mind while you lead it, and ideas of what you'd want to write up as your group for your big final paper in a month and a half. Ideally you'll start on it in less than a month just so that it's ready, but getting that group you're creating and possible grants to fund if you're at an internship that could benefit from those funds. Here's more on teamwork.
Teamwork and team building are extremely important to the working stage of groups and emphasizes how groups can achieve tasks that cannot be accomplished by an individual alone. Teams rely on openness, honesty, compassion, enthusiasm, integrity, and a commitment to communication. Other factors that contribute or distract from the development of teams include the leadership style, the member maturity and motivation, and the group task or purpose characteristics, as well as the stability and the size of the group, the available time, and the organizational, institutional, cultural, and societal expectations of that group. On page, some of the strategies that your author suggests. On page 133 of your text, you'll find a helpful comparison between working and non-working groups. I highlight these issues here as we discuss how to distinguish a working group from a non-working group, and consider the strategies for assisting groups in the working stage. Groups are characterized by high levels of trust, and when trust is not strong, members openly express this feeling, while non-working groups have members who withhold themselves and refuse to share feelings, marking the low levels of trust in the group. In working groups, the goals are clear and specific, while goals in non-working groups tend to be fuzzy, and members may have unclear personal goals or no goals at all. Members may feel excluded in non-working groups, but in working groups, the members have a sense of inclusion, and members who might feel excluded are invited to take a more active role. Working groups are also marked by their open communication, accurately expressing the here and now experience, while non-working groups tend to have a there and then focus, with members who are likely to storytell and resist dealing with reactions to one another. Leadership in working groups can be shared among members, with people initiating activities and suggesting certain areas to explore, while a non-working group tends to depend on the leader for all direction, and power conflicts may exist among members and between members and the leader. Working groups take more risk and experience more cohesion, with members identifying with each other due to high levels of closeness and support. Working groups are also able to acknowledge and deal with conflicts, while non-working groups tend to ignore, deny, or avoid any conflict that comes up in the group. Working groups are able to provide and accept feedback within the group, while non-working groups may give feedback without care or compassion, and feedback is often rejected defensively. In a non-working group, conflict is done in an attacking way to express hostility, while working groups use confrontation to challenge behavior with care, and where the confronter shares their reactions to the person being confronted rather than group members ganging up on one another. Working groups are able to share power and encourage diversity, while non-working groups tend to struggle for that power and use power to control others, valuing conformity rather than individual or cultural differences. Finally, working groups have norms that were developed cooperatively by the members and the leader, and which are clear and help members attain their goals. Non-working groups may have norms that were imposed by the leader and may not be clear. Clearly, both the leader and the members play important roles during the working stage, and when groups are not doing well in the working stage, there are many approaches to address the concern.
So as you can see, you want to gear towards being a working group, having that ability to flex and adapt and, have that trust and cohesion, constructive conflict or constructive criticism and things of that nature. So like you're able to work through things. You don't want to be a non-working group where like you get stuck. And using Girls Circle as an example, especially with adolescents of any age, so go from the range of 15 to 25, not getting caught up in some of those little things that you see, and making sure to keep, as the group leader, keeping the flow going with your particular group.
Some of the strategies that your author suggests are probably familiar, like where group leaders model complex behaviors to allow members to copy or imitate the behavior as a way of learning it. Leaders may model self-disclosure or caring confrontation as a way to help their members understand what the behavior looks like in action. Exercises can help direct and bring group members into the action by designing and implementing activities that promote interpersonal and intrapersonal learning for group members. These two strategies, along with group processing and teaching of skills, are where I would encourage you to focus your attention. Group processing capitalizes on the here and now experience of group members and allows the group to reflect on the meaning of their experiences to better understand their own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and then take time to generalize what's happened in the group to their life outside of the group. Group processing is considered a naturally occurring dynamic, but skilled leaders can facilitate this to promote growth in individuals in the group. The teaching of skills can also improve performance in the working stage by helping members feel more confident about their abilities and by improving those abilities. When the working stage draws to a close, goals have been worked on and achieved, and there has been significant learning and sharing of ideas and information. Members have likely experienced an emotional release or catharsis, and may have gained enough insight and awareness that they're able to cognitively restructure their lives, which is to say that they can actually think of and perceive themselves differently than at the beginning of the group. Feedback is an additional outcome of the working stage, with members exchanging specific and positive feedback, which is generally a higher quality of feedback than in the earlier stages of the group. Humor, which we talk about here as being the ability to laugh at oneself in a non-defensive manner, is another outcome of the working stage.
So as you can see, there's some of the things that will come up as you're planning your group, and then the working stages. So modeling appropriate behaviors, different exercises like the ones that you will use, that the Girls Circle outlines very well with that. Sometimes observing and brainstorming, and even in Girls Circle, addictions groups, and many others, having group processing. And then some of the outcomes you'll get there, ideally is getting some feedback and the goals that were picked out at first. Hopefully you get to those at the end with communication and whatnot. Catharsis is where you struggle to get to the end of those goals. And then having feedback and humor can also be a piece. So keep that in mind again as you're leading your group. The last few slides here. On closing the group.
As we move out of the working stage, we begin to think about the process of closing a group. This, however, should not be the first time that termination comes up in the life of a group. By setting expectations for members on how many sessions a group will meet, and reminding members as the number of sessions begins to come smaller, leaders can help prepare members for the process of termination. Successful group termination promotes change in individuals and sets the expectation for group members that a new experience is about to begin, one beyond the group experience. Boundaries, both physical and psychological, help members prepare for endings. Helping members think about how termination will proceed can help prevent issues that may stem from unexpected surprises. We keep in mind here that there are two different types of closings: the closing of each session and then the termination of the group as a whole. Similar to my earlier comments, in the closing of a session, group leaders are encouraged to remind members of the time a few minutes before the end of the session, rather than surprise members by the end of the session. At the end of the session, the group may summarize the material from that session, reviewing goals, or thinking about what members might do after the session ends, perhaps including homework. Again, the same tasks are appropriate when the group terminates, with group members reviewing the material and goals that were covered in the group and looking toward the future. Keep in mind that in closed groups, everyone begins and ends the group at the same time, which allows for a great deal of predictability, as the time limit may be known and communicated from the very start of the group. In open groups, however, endings are highly individualized, and the close of each and every session could serve as the closing session for some.
So closing any group, you've got to keep in mind your code of ethics. I know we're getting back to social work 101, but some of the things that are important that you will do. are having the boundaries, which is important because sometimes when you end as a group, you want to make sure that you're not having that dual relationship. And as mentioned in social work, it's for a little bit longer than it is in other fields of work like law and also like the medical field. As far as I remember, there's not supposed to be those dual relationships for several years. I remember in the past, especially a romantic relationship in the NASW Code of Ethics is for life. So that's something important to keep in mind. Also, with terminating the group, usually they're 8 to 10 sessions. Sometimes they'll go 12 weeks. And, when you're closing a session, you could have like a normal ritual that you have going on. But when you're terminating, you are going to want to have that closure. You're going to want to have something, maybe even like a graduation for folks, like a special ceremony, because it is different than closing those weekly sessions that you had for 10 to 12 weeks. It's like ending the entire 3 months worth of a group. So on to the last 2 slides.
It does come time to close a group. Termination can be done in a variety of formats, but may include member summarization, leader summarization, rounds where members respond to prompts or have a designated time to share their own thoughts and reactions. Pairing members off into dyads can also provide time for feedback and reflection. And written reactions can be a really nice way for members to consider their own experience and reactions, and may even offer them a tangible piece for them to walk away with. Rating sheets can be helpful for individual reflection, where members rate themselves, others, or the group leader on a number of dimensions like involvement, risk-taking, goals, emotional involvement, feedback, and productivity. Homework may not be as appropriate in a final session as it is during the closing of a typical session, but some members do enjoy having a specific focus as they leave the group experience. The final closing also includes a capping of skills, which is a chance for members to gain a full perspective on the tools that they have gained as a result of the group experience. The activities that we just discussed, like summarization, rounds, and dyads, can all serve to help the capping of skills. Additionally, members can assess their levels of change, rehearse behavior for upcoming settings, and finally, take time to say goodbye as part of the final closing. There are many, many activities and exercises that can facilitate the final goodbye, but generally all of them promote genuine, thoughtful, and a hopeful closing for members as they look toward the future.
So you see the several different ways that you can close up the group there, and she gives good examples of having your own summarization as the leader, things that you may have learned, because with every different group, we do learn different things. With the new members or different members, you may have them also summarize and do the rounds, have folks say what they had learned, what they hope to bring into the future, what they hope to do for aftercare. You don't give homework. It would be kind of like giving homework after the final exam, so that doesn't make sense. Like, you're done. Yes, you're going to carry this group and the class into the future, but you are done. So it does help to have written reactions. Like at Lighthouse, when we led groups, what we would have is a tablet, and then I'm seeing that somebody was locked out of the building somehow. I know sometimes, just so you know, they do lock those like some of the doors that are, I'd say, closest to the big admin building, but then they're unlocked on the other side. So don't shy away. I am here every week. I film it and try to get you guys engaged. I know shifting from having everything online a year ago to back in person with a hybrid is interesting and challenging, but it's luckily they're they are filmed and like documented for you. Okay, just filming upstairs. Which doors were locked? Question mark. That is strange that the doors were locked. I don't get that. The doors to the building are locked. I don't know how. Well, that was a minute ago, and then I see also Acacia mentioned something. I want to see if she wrote back, because I think you guys were both saying the same thing. Drove there and thought the door was locked. Just watch your YouTube live. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know why they would lock them, especially if a class is scheduled. We are a hybrid, but you know, just sign in on the YouTube, comment on the video underneath, and we'll see you guys next week. It just, I guess, for whatever reason, it's not open. So let's get this last one here so I can check in with you guys on the way out. So here's the summary.
To review, we now know that working groups and non-working groups differ in a number of important ways, including specifically trust, communication, cohesion, and power. Leaders can assist working groups through strategies including modeling, group exercises and processing, and through teaching skills. The closing stage requires planning and forewarning, and promotes reflection on growth and the new skills that members learn and develop as part of their experience. This concludes our lecture on the working and closing stages in group development. Thanks for listening.
So again, as the leader, you should make sure to have a working group and try to do things that are helpful. I am going to go check in with anyone who is locked out. Okay, on my way down now. So making sure, yeah, by the end, ideally having the trust, the communication, some of the power dynamics are gone because you're working with students and folks that you are now familiar with the last 10 or 12 weeks. So leaders can assist working groups through strategies, including modeling, exercises, group processing, and teaching skills. And at closing stage, it requires planning and forewarning, promotes reflection on growth and the new skills that members learn about the group. So as you guys see some of that, those are the different things that come up. Closure is not the best friend of social workers sometimes. I've seen some social workers, not so much with groups, but having a hard time with the termination stage. But we just have to trust that the work we had done and trained our clients with are getting them ready to, be okay and be able to do what's necessary to move on. So as we go down, actually, I'll bring it down because maybe if anybody's out there and there's questions, there'll be a question that relates to you guys. So let me get down to the bottom of the steps, the fun way to get your exercise in. Hey Siri, start an indoor walking workout. And hopefully at this point, you guys are kind of into some of the stuff that you are going to lead for Girls Circle. And feel free to shoot me an info, anything that comes up with questions about leading the group. I do look forward to it because it's almost like you're all learning how to teach a class. So hopefully the internet still works out here too, because that may tell us. But I said I'm going to carry this down in case you have questions.
Okay, yes, because I did have a question.
And hopefully it's a question everybody else has if we're still alive.
Cool beans. Okay, so let me go to Schoology.
Because you'll be leading your group in Girls Circle. You already observed an AA meeting. That was the first major assignment. Discussion boards every week or 10 days, and then leading your group is next.
Yes.
That's the scary part.
2. This is 2.
Okay, yes.
So there was one of these that I didn't do. But I did most of my homework last night, except one of them.
And I told people I'll open everything up so you still can do it. Just I want y'all to succeed. So yes.
Not this one.
you
This
can-
one.
You can still do it.
Okay, so
This-
where is the PowerPoint?
It's in a folder into the next folder. So I think it's the only folder, and then it says Toastland PowerPoints, which is the name of the
Toastland.
author.
This one?
Yes, and it'll
Okay.
probably be named like multicultural.
Bam. Found it. Thank you very much.
And then and then in a month you guys lead your group. I wonder when I'll lose internet stream. I'm like, I'm gonna take it
battery.
live outside. Oh, you're right. I do have to. Yeah.
Because
So.
my phone usually dies faster in the cold.
Oh, right. Yeah. I
Since
was
it's an
like,
Apple product. And
I know. Yeah.
whatnot.
So yeah, and that's because we just finished forming, storming, norming. I showed a clip of Remember the Titans where they do like it's a movie. I don't know if you've ever
Yeah.
seen it. It's pretty good, and
Yeah,
it's
with
about
Denzel.
yes. And so that they broke that down into forming, storming, norming, and adjourning. So they do all the group
okay.
stages. That was kind of the beginning, and then I did the next PowerPoint, which were kind of on closure, how to do the closure. So.
Oh,
Any other questions before I die for any and lose internet? I can tell it's totally losing internet.
yeah, because it's starting to lag.
Yeah, it's like, hello, we're gonna die.
Is anybody watching?
Probably not.